Imagine a place so advanced, so glitteringly perfect, it made ancient Greece look like a garage sale, a utopia with shimmering temples, crystal clear canals, gold-plated everything, and citizens so morally upright they probably recycled before it was cool. Now imagine that same place vanishing off the face of the earth without a trace, like your last good decision during finals week. Welcome to the story of Atlantis, history's most legendary game of hide and seek. The first person to drop the A word was Plato. Yes, toga wearing. Socrates worshipping, probably too serious Plato, in around 360 BCE. He wrote about Atlantis in two dialogues, Timaeus and Critias, where he claimed it existed about 9,000 years before his time, which puts it around 11,000 years ago. According to him, Atlantis was a naval powerhouse located beyond the Pillars of Hercules, which most scholars agree refers to the Strait of Gibraltar. It was an enormous island, bigger than Libya and Asia combined, with lush landscapes, exotic animals, hot and cold springs, and, because every ancient civilization needs this, an absurd amount of orichalcum, a mysterious metal that apparently shimmered like fire. The city itself was an architectural fever dream. Concentric rings of land and water surrounded the capital, with bridges and canals linking everything together like some kind of deluxe water park, designed by Poseidon. Speaking of whom, Atlantis was supposedly founded by Poseidon himself, who fell in love with a mortal woman named Cleito. They had 5 sets of twin sons. Fertility gods don't mess around. The eldest son, Atlas, got the whole kingdom named after him, which is honestly a flex. Atlantis was a society driven by technology, innovation, and order, at least at first. Its citizens were said to be noble and just, living in harmony with nature and the gods. But then, like any overachieving civilization, they got cocky, greedy, obsessed with power. Basically, they went full capitalist dystopia before it was cool. That's when the gods stepped in. According to Plato, the Atlanteans tried to conquer the known world but were defeated by the plucky, morally superior Athenians. Not long after, the gods smote the entire island, sinking it into the ocean in a single day and night of cataclysmic rage. Zero chill. Naturally, scholars have spent centuries debating whether Plato was chronicling real history, crafting an allegory, or just trolling everyone with the world's first clickbait. He did have a flair for storytelling, and Atlantis might have been his way of warning humanity about the dangers of moral decay. In short, don't be greedy, don't start wars, and for Zeus's sake, don't anger the gods, or you'll end up as fish food. But while most historians roll their eyes and file Atlantis under epic myth with a side of symbolism, others are not so chill. Enter the conspiracy theorists, the amateur archaeologists, the Reddit warriors. These are the people who look at a blurry rock in the ocean and scream, "Proof!" Because why accept that Atlantis might be fictional when you can believe it's hiding under Antarctica or was nuked by aliens? Let's talk geography. Atlantis has been discovered pretty much everywhere at this point. Spain, the Bahamas, Santorini, the Sahara, even under the ice of Greenland. If someone's backyard has a suspiciously symmetrical pond, boom, Atlantis. One popular theory places it near the Strait of Gibraltar, in a sunken marshy region called the Doñana National Park in Spain. Satellite images, strange land formations, and a bunch of very excited YouTubers suggest that this could be it. Others believe the island of Santorini, once blown apart by a volcanic eruption, was the real Atlantis. Sounds dramatic enough, but it's also well documented, which makes it less sexy for the hardcore Atlantis fans. And then there's the Sahara Desert theory. What screams sunken city louder than a giant arid wasteland? Some folks believe the Rishat structure, or the Eye of the Sahara, fits Plato's description of Atlantis eerily well. It's round, it's layered like an onion, or a cake if you're feeling optimistic, and it's ancient. Still, there's no sign of advanced tech, glittering temples, or evidence that the residents were anything more than sand-savvy nomads. Now, let's sprinkle in a bit of darkness. The idea of a super advanced civilization wiped out in a day sounds suspiciously familiar. Some theorists think Plato might have been inspired by real events, like the volcanic annihilation of Thera, modern-day Santorini, or the Bronze Age collapse, a time when entire civilizations went poof for reasons still not totally clear. Could Atlantis be a cultural Frankenstein, stitched together from multiple ancient disasters? A tragic mixtape of humanity's biggest oopsies? Still, for every rational explanation, there's a tinfoil hat version that's way more entertaining. One camp swears Atlantis was a nuclear-powered society brought down by its own technology, sort of like if Elon Musk invented Atlantis and then forgot to charge it properly. Others believe the Atlanteans were actually aliens, or at least had alien help. Because obviously, if humans do anything impressive in ancient times, extraterrestrials must be involved. How else could Bronze Age people possibly move rocks? Let's not forget Edgar Cayce, the 20th century mystic who confidently declared that the lost city would rise again in 1968. Spoiler alert, it didn't. But a few curious underwater formations near Bimini in the Bahamas, known as the Bimini Road, got people whispering. Natural rock formation? Or Atlantean sidewalk. Depends on how many episodes of Ancient Aliens you've watched. There's also the tantalizing idea that Atlantis might have ceded knowledge to other ancient civilizations. Some theorists believe that after Atlantis sank, its survivors scattered to places like Egypt, Mesoamerica, or even Mesopotamia, spreading their knowledge of architecture, astronomy, and building suspiciously perfect pyramids. Is that plausible? Depends on whether you think ancient humans were capable of brilliance on their own, or if you assume they needed ancient Atlantean tutors with a flair for geometry. Atlantis isn't just a geographical mystery, it's a psychological one. Why are we so obsessed with a lost city that may never have existed? Maybe because it represents the ultimate what could have been. A golden age cut short. A cautionary tale. Or maybe it's our collective inability to chill the F out and let something pass us by without spiraling. The idea that once a civilization cracked the code to perfection, only to throw it all away because they couldn't stop being jerks. Despite centuries of digging, sonar scanning, and desperate Googling, no one has found conclusive proof that Atlantis ever existed. But that hasn't stopped people from believing. Because Atlantis isn't just a place, it's an idea, a symbol of lost greatness, a glittering dream of perfection lost to time, or a really good excuse to fund your underwater drone hobby. So who were the people of Atlantis, assuming they existed? According to Plato, they were a hybrid breed of gods and mortals, stronger, smarter, and taller than your average toga wearer. Their society had a structured government, impressive military power, and a flourishing economy. Their rulers, descendants of Poseidon himself, governed with justice until they started indulging in vanity and power. Their downfall wasn't because of bad luck, it was because of arrogance. The gods, ever dramatic, decided to pull the plug on humanity's little utopian experiment. Maybe the most chilling part of the Atlantis story is how familiar it feels. Civilizations rising to greatness, pushing boundaries, then collapsing under the weight of their own ambition. That's not just ancient history, that's Tuesday. Atlantis might be fiction, but it's a reflection of every empire that's ever flown too close to the sun. So where does that leave us? On the surface, Atlantis is probably a myth. A powerful, seductive myth, sure. But a myth nonetheless. Unless, of course, it's not. Maybe it's still out there, buried beneath the waves or hiding in plain sight. Maybe one day we'll dig up a temple, crack open a sunken library, or finally decode some Atlantean version of Google Maps. Or maybe, just maybe, it's better this way. Unsolved. Mysterious. A story too wild to ruin with something as boring as facts. Let's face it, half the fun is not knowing. Atlantis is humanity's greatest what if. What if we were once greater than we are now? What if we lost something extraordinary? What if we're just one bad day away from joining it at the bottom of the sea? Sleep tight, sailor, and keep your scuba gear handy, just in case.